All right, let's go. Back to another preview on Trafford Talk. What up, Alexi? How you doing?
Yeah, not too bad. It's been a eventful week in the lives of Manchester United, hasn't it? A lot of stuff going on, protests and 6-2 wins, and obviously the most eventful of all, that 0-0 draw with Leeds. I mean, you know how I have this thing about Ollie being a liar, right? Ollie said before the game, there's no way we're drawing 0-0 with Leeds. There's no way it's impossible. And then we drew 0-0. The man
Yeah,
is a pathological liar, you know?
he smoke screens a lot. He basically his whole what he does is all about smoke screens. He doesn't really care about telling the truth to the media. He doesn't care what you hear, what you think. Doesn't matter to him. It's just I'm going to tell the media what they want to hear, and we're going to move on. Which is it impressed me about him because we're starting to see it. We're starting to see the fact that like people are like, oh, he's not strong in the dressing room, and then everybody's like, he let us up at halftime. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he's just a very. I think he just learned how to navigate the media better than most young managers have. Like Frank Lampard, I remember starting to get annoyed by the end of his tenure. All he just kept being like, "Go on."
Lampard couldn't take it at all.
No,
I remember one of his last press conferences, he just went in on this journalist, but it was just a weird rant because he was just going, "Oh, why are you writing that story about me?" And the journalist was like, "You're the manager of Chelsea." I think Lampard just wasn't ready, whereas I think Ollie's obviously been trained from Ferguson's man management.
Yeah, and I
And
also
how he
think
deals with the media is very similar.
I think he has an interesting the not like the temporary trial that he had helped as well, right? Like those 14 games, whatever it was, is like you're not actually manager. Like that was good. That was good for him. It's interesting going into this Liverpool game where it's like it's been a while since I've been like I'm pretty confident. I don't feel I don't feel like we're gonna lose. We could draw, of course, we could draw because let's be honest, it's like this is one of those ties where every year, every week, every time we play Liverpool, you're like, oh, it's going to be a great game. Look at the teams that are going to be put out. And then it's like 1-1 or 0-0.
I would not be surprised at all. I hate to be negative, but I can see it being 0-0. I hate to say it, but I mean, I'm probably going to miss a bit of it because there's I'm going to a protest just before the game. Obviously, because it's just before the game. The irony is I'm going to miss probably some of the game. Even though I'm at the place where the game is happening, I'm going to miss some of the actual game, which is just ridiculous. But yeah, there is a protest tomorrow. Anyone who's watching, if you want to go, at 2:00 at Old Trafford.
Oh, that's interesting.
10,000 people are meant to be going. Obviously, it's good exposure and stuff because it's in front of the Sky Sports cameras. And yeah, it should be interesting. I mean, the one last week was pretty good. That was like 3,000, but this should be really big and hopefully makes an impact. I don't know about you, but it's a bit sad because I think there was that flurry of anger straight after the Super League and it carried on for a few days. But I'm glad we're having this protest tomorrow because it brings it back into the spotlight again. Because do you not think it's kind of people have stopped caring again a bit?
Well, this is the thing. So there's a few elements to what's happened here. One, you need like for this protest to work, you need tens of that. Like you need like a stadium full of people to show up, right? You need like the streets to be full, which I don't know will ever happen. Because a lot of the match going fans are older too, right? So they're just like, I can't be bothered. And then things are going well for United right now, right? So the outrage is drowned by people being actually content. Like that's the thing. And like this is where you'll get the diehard hardcore, like I don't know if I'm gonna say diehard because a lot of people are diehards and don't act this way, but you'll get those fans that are like, you accept mediocrity, you're the problem because you're not like you're not as mad as I am. And it's just like I
think the problem with it is ultimately the Glazers are the problem, regardless of whether we beaten Roma on Thursday. So if people don't turn up on Sunday because we beat Roma on Thursday, it shows that they're not that bothered about the Glazers. It's more just they need a scapegoat for when they're angry, if you know what I mean. Because we need to just kind of all come together and just say, look, regardless of what we're doing on the pitch, we need to get these people, to put it politely, out of this club. And regardless of results, I mean, we saw it in like 2010. We beat Milan 4-0. But there was still green and gold scarves everywhere. You know, David Beckham wore a green and gold scarf. That was huge. But it's the problem now that obviously I love the fact we beat Roma. It's brilliant. I'm really happy about how we're doing. It'd be great if we could beat Liverpool tomorrow, but we need to, regardless of if we're winning, keep protesting, because in the grand scheme of things, a win against Liverpool compared to the Glazer ownership, it's so much bigger. Like
It's true.
It's like getting given a free coffee from Starbucks, but ignoring, like, you know, the inner workings of capitalism. You know, it's just like
yeah, that's deep. That's deep.
It's true though, isn't it? You get given a free coffee and you go, "Oh, everything's fine now," but you go, if we look into Starbucks, I don't know why I use Starbucks as an example, but you know, you've got to look at it a lot more broader.
Yeah. It's like, oh, they gave me a free, like, I got a free pair of Nikes from, you know, back in the day, but they're made by child labor. I know what you mean. I see where you're going with it.
Yeah, exactly.
But this is okay. That's the problem, though. The issue is bigger. And I had somebody recently ask me a question, and they asked our whole group chat the question. They're like, "Would you be mad if the Glazers went out and spent on Sancho, Declan Rice, and let's just say a DM?" Because, like, realistically, Cavani's staying, so that means we're not going to go after a striker, which means we knew we weren't getting Haaland. So if we sign those three players, Rice, or fine, you can think of another really good DM in the world that we might use, Sancho, and a center back like Varane or Koundé or something, would you still hate the Glazers? I was like, no. Like, again, that's me. And then all my other buddies from the UK, because it's different, we're like, yes. So this is the problem with having a global fan base, right?
The thing is, though, so the Glazers signing that, it wouldn't be the Glazers signing them. It would just be them letting us use our own money. Because if we did sign them, it wouldn't be from their money. And regardless of the fact, if we did sign them, it's just basically them for once going, yeah, you can use some of your own pocket money, basically. It's like if you have let's say I have a bank account, but for some reason the bank tell me, yeah, you can't spend any of your money at all for most of your time. And then they say to me once, oh, you can spend 20 quid on some beers.
Or if they're like, you can't spend until Cam tells you can spend type deal. And then it's like, and then I'm always like, nah, you can't spend your own money. And then one day I'm just like, you know what? Go nuts. Go.
Yeah, it's like, it's Stockholm syndrome, you know?
No, like, see, that's the thing. That's a very important point. I don't like disagree with that point where realistically, yes, it is the club's money and they're now in control of it. They bought the club so they can do what they want with the money. That's how they look at it probably. But see, that's the thing. Most fans, like, again, like global fan base they don't really know that. And you're not concerned about that method in the UK. Cause like for North American sports, all the money being spent is not generated solely by it's generated by the club, but it's the owner's money too, right? So like it's the revenue they generate from the team. Like they don't get to, like, they only keep the money, they only get revenue after all their expenditures, which includes like their salaries, like the team salaries. Normally you go up to the cap. In some sports there's a luxury tax which comes straight from the owner's pocket. So like in the NBA, whether you're owned by a corporation, a conglomerate, or like one person, if you go over a certain amount in your cap, you have to pay a luxury tax. Like they let you do it. They'll be like, to sign your own players, they'll be like, you know what, you can go over to keep your core together, but we're going to tax you double. Like you're going to have to pay double the amount in tax to the league to stay this good with these players without releasing them. So there's a penalty to using your own money in that sense, right? Mm-hmm. It's not the same at all. So when I think about it and I'm like, oh, if the Glazers went out and spent or authorized the spending, like I'm like, all right, cool. That's all I care about is what happens on the pitch. And speaking of what's going to happen on the pitch, let's get into the game a bit. Let's get into, so Liverpool, this is probably going to be one of their, if Liverpool don't win tomorrow, that's it, right? Like they're not making Champions League. That has to be it. Like it has to be nights. And it's going to be so beautiful after all the abuse we took. It would have been real nice to see Chelsea lose today too. Like just to see those two squads, because I don't know any West Ham fans. I don't know any Leicester fans. Like I could care less. Right?
They're irrelevant, aren't they?
So do you think Liverpool, if they lose tomorrow, have any chance of getting the Champions League, or is this it?
No. Like the thing is, Like, obviously, in a one-off game tomorrow, they could beat us. But people keep forgetting they are not very good at all. For about 5-6 months, they've been absolutely crap. Like, their form is absolutely woeful. They lose or draw pretty much every week. And when it was going on for a few games, you go, oh, maybe it's a blip. But there's no real evidence to suggest that they can win 4 games in a row, even, let alone with the other factor of Chelsea having to lose a couple. I mean, what could easily happen is Chelsea could lose a few, but I think Liverpool will just lose a few as well. And yeah, if we win tomorrow, I mean, they're done. I mean, if we win tomorrow as well, we mathematically secure top 4. Which is good.
Which is nice. And they'll be on 70 points.
Yeah. So then, I mean, we can. The problem. I don't know about you, but obviously, I really want to beat Liverpool because it's a huge game. But it does feel a bit like kind of empty league-wise because we know we're coming second.
It's empty, but so I said this on the terrace, and I think this is an important thing we need to all keep in mind. Everything that happens from this point on is building into next year. Like everything. Mm-hmm. It's not like we can't look at it in isolation. You have to look at it even going into the transfer window. If we end the year, let's just say on a mad one and win like every single game, right? Let's just say that. If you're Jadon Sancho and you're looking at teams that want you, and I don't think I love the Liverpool rumors, by the way, they're hilarious. We can get into those in a second. And you're looking at Chelsea and United. I'm going to use those 2 teams because I think those will be the 2 teams that will be the most likely to get him. If United go on this run, end off, as long as Chelsea doesn't win the Champions League, because then that puts us in a very precarious position when it comes to who's the better team to go to.
That really would put a cap.
It puts a little bit of like a. But yeah, so we go on. We end the season. We finish second. Chelsea finishes 4th or 3rd because they could potentially finish 3rd. And you're sitting there thinking, okay, it's going into the 3rd year of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. The United just won the Europa League, end the season on a winning run. A lot of my mates are there from the English squad. There's talk about Harry Kane potentially going there eventually at one point. Or there's Chelsea where you're like, it's cool. Like I can play for Tuchel, who plays a very structured system, but has a bunch of younger players in my position as well. And there's a whole bunch of like question marks, I think, if you were to go to Chelsea. And it's like you don't have the same connection with the English squad there. It's like you just have Mount. So it's not the same as being at United where you have Greenwood, you have Aaron Wan-Bissaka, you have like Luke Shaw, Rashford. It's basically half of English's team plays for United.
Well, that's the thing, because the impression a lot of people got is a lot of the reason why Sancho wanted to go to United as well is because he wanted to go back to Manchester. Because obviously he'd been in Manchester for a while living there.
Oh yeah, he grew up in London, right?
Yeah, but when he was at City and stuff, obviously he lived here for a few years and made friends. I think for that reason alone, he'd want to come back to live in Manchester. Mm-hmm. And obviously, unless he goes back to City, which that's not happening. I really can't see it. I think you're right. I mean, but then equally, I thought this with Havertz and Werner. I just thought, why are you going to Chelsea?
But they went to start like this whole Chelsea revolution thing. It was like Chelsea's rebirth, but with young players, right? And that's why they went there. For us, like, I remember I was reading something that said Liverpool in for Sancho. He could choose them. And I'm sitting there being like, remember last year when everybody said he wouldn't join United if we weren't in the Champions League? It's like, how does that change? How does that change a year later for a team that's not as good at the moment? That's like all of a sudden it's like, yeah, no, but I'll go play no Champions League for Liverpool. Like, I just don't buy it at all.
Yeah, you're completely right. And if you're looking at trajectory, we're going up. And
Liverpool going down.
Brilliant highs. Like, don't get me wrong, they've been great. If it was a year ago, obviously go to Liverpool. Like, because they're on top.
It's funny how much of the difference a year makes.
Yeah, completely. And you look at them now and they just look quite like a lot of their players, obviously. I mean, I'm probably going to jinx this because they'll score tomorrow now, but like Firmino and Mane and Wijnaldum and Thiago and like the fullbacks all look a bit like they've peaked. I think the fullbacks will come back.
I think they'll come back, but I think they peaked. Like I think
they've definitely peaked.
I think you're not going to see a better version of Trent or like Robbo. Like after what we saw last year, I don't think you'll ever see it. Like you'll just never see it again. Like I think 100%. That's it. Which is cool, good for them. They reached a pretty high peak. But I
at
think
like
it's done.
21. It's crazy, isn't it? Like
Yeah,
Arnold
but
peaked at 21.
if they are as good as they were last year, year in year out, though, they're basically the two best in their position or top three for the next however long. So it's not a bad place to be. Wijnaldum's trash. I don't care what anybody says. Kaida trash. Like their midfield's not good. Thiago doesn't fit. He's not fitting well there.
Thiago, I think, is a really brilliant player, and I don't necessarily think he's been bad for them. But just like you said, it just doesn't work. It's a bit like us with Lukaku, where you have this really brilliant footballer who's gone on to do great things. And I'm sure when Thiago leaves Liverpool, he'll go on to do great things. But sometimes
he's kind of old.
It doesn't quite work and it doesn't quite fit in for various reasons.
Yeah, it is interesting, man. It's the way I look at it is I honestly think they went out and bought him because of the price tag. They didn't want to spend, right? That's the thing. This comment makes me laugh because he's the only one watching on YouTube, but there's people watching on Twitter. Hey, man, stick around.
He's looking for Trafford Council.
I've never heard of Trafford Council.
Why is he looking for Trafford Council on YouTube? Trafford Council basically sort out the bins and stuff in Manchester, I guess. That's kind of what I know. They fund the library.
They fund the library. Okay, cool.
The buses. So, yeah, mate. I mean, the fact we're rivaling, the local authority that funds the library, we're onto something here, Cam.
We're onto something. But yeah, back to so Thiago doesn't fit there, and I think it's kind of like even with our team, we see some players that just like we said with Lukaku. At the current moment, I think Ollie's done a good job. That's one thing he's done well is figuring out how to piece everybody together, figuring out how to get the right pieces to work together, like knowing when to play Scott and Fred, knowing that balance. Not that our current squad going into next year, I don't believe is good enough to challenge. Like that's just my opinion, but I do like the progression.
Yeah, I think I don't know if you agree with this. I think you could argue we have a good enough team to challenge, but not a good enough squad because our first 11 on its day can literally beat anyone.
Yeah,
but it's just the kind of drop in quality in some positions. It's difficult.
True. No, it's true. But I think we are missing, like, again, if you added a CDM to our first 11, then I would think we can beat anybody on its day. I actually don't think I don't think we're equipped to beat teams that are like a City who's just flying or having a really good, like are in form without a CDM on there. Like, I just don't think we're good enough. And I think even with Chelsea, they're going to buy somebody next year. So they're going to put more pressure on us. I think they're going to go defense over anything else. Like people are talking about Holland or this or that. I would not be surprised if Chelsea makes a really big defensive signing next year. Like I'm talking like Varane or Koundé. I would not be surprised if they jump the line for either of those guys.
What do you think about like the Varane to United rumors? I mean, I think there's no way, to be honest.
If there's any truth to it, it has to like that's your target. Like there shouldn't like I don't care what people are saying. Well, you get Koundé for 10 years but no, you just get Varane.
Yeah,
that's
he's won everything. He's won 4 Champions Leagues, league titles, a World Cup. If people say they wouldn't have him, they are absolutely crazy.
But you see people say it. Like I've seen people say they wouldn't have Raphael Varane, and I'm just like, cool. I got nothing. It's like one of those things where I won't argue. I won't argue with somebody on that one because there's no point. My opinion's so different than that person's that there's no point in me arguing with them. Yeah. Like if I'm going to be completely honest with you. When it comes to tomorrow, who do you think we're going to end up starting? What would be your starting lineups and like kind of the whys and what? Because like I'm going to go over like who I want to see playing, but who I think I'll also go over who I think is going to actually play because those are two very different things.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be Henderson back in goal, I guess. I mean, I know it's a boring answer, but I think it could be the same team that played the other night. Exactly the same, apart from maybe
the same in the Premier League, not the Roma team.
Oh, sorry, yeah, the same as the Roma team. I think it could be exactly the same. And the only thing I don't like about that team is I don't think Rashford on the right is very good, and I think it's not fair on him having to play out there really because it makes it harder for him to like cut in or whatever. But obviously Pogba's so good that you've got to I mean, if thing is, if Ollie's feeling very naughty and very kind of like, oh, let's just go for this because why not? You could possibly, I mean, I wouldn't do this because I think we could get battered, but you could have Fred, Bruno, Pogba, and then someone's laying off fireworks outside. And then Rashford's. Sorry, I'm just so distracted. I don't know what people are celebrating. It's a random day in May. And then Rashford, Greenwood, and Cavani. But realistically, we all know Ollie in the big games. It's going to be McFred, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. So I have two trains of thoughts. I don't want Rashford to play, but he will. So like I'll give you the team. Like if it was up to me, I would play a 4-3-3, and I would probably drop Rashford and do something really weird and play Donny Van de Beek on the right because I'd want Greenwood up top because I don't want Cavani to play either. This is the lineup I do want to see just because I want Cavani and Rashford to be protected. But I'd put Greenwood up top. I would do something really weird with like a Donny Van de Beek on the right. I would keep Daniel James on the left, Bruno, and then I'd put Bruno, Pogba, and I'd play like a Scott McTominay or Fred in the middle.
God, he's going to get crucified if he picks this, isn't he?
Yeah, it would never happen. But this is what I would do. If I was him, I'd say, I don't care what everybody else thinks. I'd play Alex Telles on the left at left back. And then I would just keep the other three the same because you have no other options. And then Dino and Nat. There's one moment, by the way, I want to talk about that. David De Gea really pissed me off in the Roma game. I can't remember who it was. It was like Pellegrini or somebody was dribbling the ball, and Maguire was like running beside him, and it was basically like 5 yards away from David De Gea. Like Maguire was holding him off, but like I was like, David, just go get the ball. Just take it from him. Like instead of just sitting there waiting for Maguire to make a mistake that could easily happen, just go get the ball. Dino would be all over it. So yeah, Dino and Nat. But what's really going to happen tomorrow is I think we're still going to play Rashford because as long as Rashford's fit, like somewhat fit, he plays. And I'm hoping for a diamond where we play Pogba, drop Pogba into the midfield, but still high up Bruno, McFred, split Greenwood and Rashford up top because all it does like playing Rashford as a striker sometimes, Greenwood up top, and then the usual back four, like with Luke Shaw, Aaron Wan. But that's the team that I think is going to actually happen because I do think Cavani will be rested. I think at this stage, you can't risk not having him for Europa League. Like you just can't. Like
he's become kind of arguably our most important player because if he gets injured, you're going, oh dear,
who's going to score the goals, right? Yeah. Like it's interesting because I was really upset with Cavani don't get me wrong, going into the half, I was like, he can go. I was so like when he had that gift, and it would have just put us right back into the driver's seat. We'd been by, and he scuffs the ball. Cool, gets a second chance. Pogba's sitting right there, and instead of just squaring the ball, and I know there was like players and people in the way, Pogba's fine in the net. I don't care what anybody says. If he squares that ball, Pogba's going to score. There's nobody who's going to get in the way. Like so I was really pissed off going into the half, and then he obviously comes out. That first shot, that volley, top bins. I'm like, okay, all right, well, cool.
I was really annoyed. I was screaming at Mattelli when, it was that Pogba thing, wasn't it? Where he just like, please pass it, and then, it's fair to say he made up for it. I mean, about a month ago, I was quite critical of Cavani because all that stuff was coming out about his dad, touting his services elsewhere, and
I believe it too.
He'd not scored many goals and he wasn't there much. He was injured a lot, and I was kind of thinking like, what's he here for? But I feel like an idiot now basically because he's proved us wrong, and I think he's shown that while like Martial's great, we just need a conventional number 9 now. Really, just someone. Do you know what it is? Right, it's been quite a long time since we had a conventional number 9, so it's just stuff like. Do you remember when he first played and we were all just amazed at how good his runs were?
Yeah.
Like, oh my God.
like, oh
Come
my
on.
god, he's running in behind. He's shadowing guys.
Yeah.
He's opening up the channels.
We were like, oh, this is amazing. But when you really think about it, I mean, at under 8 level, your striker's running behind. So he's great at doing it, obviously. But, it just shows that we're so lacking of a proper striker for ages.
We have a Martial who likes to hold up the ball, turn, dribble to the left, go take a guy, and you're like,
I do.
right, well.
I'm a bit worried about him now. I love the guy. Don't get me wrong. But I suspect... Basically, I don't think Ollie rates him. And the reason I think this is not because of what he said publicly. Publicly, Ollie's been very supportive of Martial. But in so many press conferences, he said this thing about, I want strikers who can break their nose to score a goal. He said that so many times.
He's like, you can score the pretty goals, but it's the ugly ones that really help your tally. It's the tap ins.
Yeah, and what does Martial do? He scores brilliant goals, which is great. But I think because Ollie was a Cavani type striker, he wasn't a Martial type striker, so he wants someone like him. I think
there weren't really any Martial type strikers. Like Henry was the closest you could find in the sense of like somebody who liked to pick up the ball, dribble at people, and score brilliant goals. But he scored all sorts of goals. Like I'm not comparing those two just to put it on the record. I'm just saying the way they play. There weren't a lot of strikers who did that. It was a lot of the Ole Gunnar Solskjaers, the Dwight Yorks, those guys. Like that's who the band is. Like. Ruben Nistelrooy, like that's who your strikers were, right? Just guys who could put it in the net.
Like Martial, I don't know about you, but I don't know what he is. Like, I love him. I think he's a great guy.
He's an inside forward.
Yeah, I just don't know whether he's, like you said, like an inside forward or he's a striker. And he's been here a long time now, and I don't necessarily think we should sell him because, like I keep saying, I have a really big soft spot for him, but I don't know what he is, and he's been here for 6 years.
I think he's an inside forward, very similar to Rashford. Like Rashford's not really a true winger. He's not really a striker. If you watch like any of the pundits, like the English pundits or whatnot, they call Rashford a striker, which always drives me nuts because he's not. But he's more of that inside forward role now. Like Son, it's become a thing where it's like you're not a true outside winger where you like your job is to, like Perisic, for instance. Perisic is the definition of like a left winger.
Yeah,
like that's it. He sticks to the wing. He whips and crosses. He gives you whip. They don't really. It's almost a dying position. There's still a lot of them, but not really with the skill level. They all want to cut in. They all want to dribble. They all want to run at their men. Not really whipping crosses. So I think Martial is actually, if we're going to be completely honest, more of a left inside forward, which is fine. And I don't think we should sell him, but I won't be surprised if, and I mean this full on, if he's included in the deal to get Harry Kane in a year's time. I don't think we'll do it this year. I believe it'll be next year. I believe he'll have a good-ish season. Like he'll be all right, but he won't be the odds-on starter all the time. And we'll start hearing murmurs that Martial's unhappy. And then it'll just be a perfect moment where Levy's ready to sell Harry Kane for $100 million. Manchester United offer Martial.
Yeah.
$75 million.
I mean, it would kind of make sense, because, obviously Spurs would need a striker if Kane left. I mean, the thing is, it depends a lot as well. Because it sounds crazy, but, we were saying earlier how much changes in the year with United and Liverpool. If Martial has the Euros of his life and he's like top scorer at the Euros, whereas Kane doesn't, coming into the summer, that swap looks a lot less crazy. And
the thing
United
is,
kind of go, actually, Martial's pretty good. It drives the price down.
I don't know. Is he going to play in the Euros? Like, I thought his injury was really, really bad.
I think, mind you, though, the Euros is next month.
Yeah.
I think he will. I mean, I know he's out for the season, but I think there's a month between the Euros and the end of the season.
Reports suggest it's nothing. Yeah, so this is the thing. So at least the one thing you can say is that it's probably not like a torn MCL or ACL or anything. They would have reported that already. We would have known about that. So it's probably something like a strain, like a half tear or something that they're hoping will fix, or like a meniscus that they don't really want to disclose because his Euros. I'll be pretty sad if if he does miss the Euros. That'll suck. Like I don't want any player to get hurt and miss their European debut. Like that's like the one thing you want to see players take part in. And the Euros this summer are going to be super fun. Like they're going to be real fun to watch. Like there's a lot of great teams. Like Portugal is going to be nuts. France is going to be nuts. England. There's a lot of Belgium. Like these teams, like even Spain's coming back.
It kind of like the best they've been for a bit. It feels because France. I mean, the two you're looking at, especially at England and Portugal, where even when Portugal won it, they didn't have a great squad.
No, this Portugal side is insane.
Have a great squad, but yeah, both sides you look at and go, what the like? My God. Like, really, I mean, it's obvious, but really, those two teams should be aiming to win this tournament. I think it might be
Belgium too. Belgium.
Yeah.
Belgium should be aiming to win this one. France should be aiming to win this one. Like, I think it's between 4 teams that stand atop. And even Spain could sneak in there and cause some problems. The problem is with Spain is they don't have who's Spain's striker right now? Right? Like the fact that you have to think about that tells you something. Like there's no recognized striker. Like Ferran Torres will play for
Morata.
Is it Morata? Good question. Yeah, it is. It's Morata. It's Alvaro. Yeah.
No, it's Morata.
Two people in the comments. But isn't it crazy that we forgot? Like we actually forgot who their striker is going to be. But if I go Belgium, we know Lukaku off the top, no problem. England, like there's 3 guys you can name, but it's going to be Harry Kane, obviously. France, it's as much as like you're like Giroud, you still know it's Giroud. Like, but then you also know Griezmann and Mbappe are both going to be there. With Spain, I don't know their front players. I only know Ferran Torres, Morata. Yeah. Like I don't know who their front is. Like, you think of Portugal, and you can name like 6.
Honestly,
like
Portugal's team,
João Felix,
outrageous.
Diogo Jota, like Bruno's gonna play high up the pitch. Like that's insane. But we should definitely do a stream about the Euros, like a pre-Euro.
Yeah, definitely.
Since we're kind of just
okay, sorry.
No, it's so funny that we're both. This is how like you're right. Like the feeling of like even if we win tomorrow with it's almost like a dead feeling because we're going to finish second. There's not much to, so it's like we're looking forward to the game because you always want to see this game, but the result doesn't matter as much. And this is where the Super League would have killed things, right? If you had the Super League, think about how many of these games there would have been with teams that, like, when you get to this stage and you're stuck because of the way the table is, you know how the chips are going to fall. Like a team like United's automatically going to be in top 4, so they don't. After this results don't really, they matter, obviously, for like what I was saying, for progression's sake, but they have no impact on your season next year. So why do you care?
That's it, isn't it? That was the problem. I immediately saw the Super League that basically, if you weren't realistically in the top 2 kind of fighting, because I don't think it'd be more than 2 teams, it would just be 2 that would be really good every year. You've got no point in playing 99% of the games. It would just be like, oh, yeah. Do you know what it'd be like? It would be like those, we have pre-season tours in like America sometimes.
In the States,
Asia, and we'll just play Barcelona in this like
the ICC, the whatever cup, the Intercontinental International Cup,
and you go like, we won the Intercontinental Cup. Whoopie-doo, let's have a party. But do you know what I mean? It's kind of. It would just, they'd all feel like friendlies because it'd be like, oh, we're playing Barcelona and loads of people are going, but it's like, what can we get from this?
Yeah.
Like, we can't even get relegated. That was the problem. Even if we were really crap, it wouldn't matter because we couldn't get relegated. So you'd just be stuck in the abyss and then one team would win it. Oh, it was such a bad idea, wasn't it? I mean,
just the way they did it, like the structure, like they clearly, it's wild how all those businessmen, they clearly, at the end of the day, none of us can claim to be smarter than a lot of these men because look where they are and look where we are. Like as much as people want to be like, oh, like no, they're billionaires for a reason. They clearly have a different level of business acumen than most people in the world, or they did something in their past to get them there, or in the Glazers' case, they just inherited a bunch of money. But like a Florentino Perez, these people did enough to get to where they were at. How could you not have seen all the holes? How did you not see the problems? How could you not have been so? It's because they're so disconnected. Actually, when I say this out loud, it's because you're so disconnected from the fans and so disconnected from what the sport actually is, which is weird because Perez shouldn't be like. Sorry, Real Madrid's like a golden goose in football, and like it's just weird that you don't understand what your fans actually want, and you believe that this was the right thing. That's insane. Making the comments, some of the comments were criminal, talking about the state of football. So it is interesting to see how like they could have got that so wrong, because if they, to be honest, people are kind of fed up with FIFA and UEFA. If you do it right, they may have been able to win if they had done it the right way. If they had made like, you know what, we're making this Super League, it's going to be 30 teams. Everybody can be relegated. Like, there's salary caps or this or that, but we're breaking off from FIFA. And the majority of the money goes to the teams that finish in the top like 10 because they want to protect their investments. Cool. Okay, cool. They did that where it's like, because their whole problem is, I believe there's a staggering number. It's something like 90% of like FIFA's money or revenue comes in from the teams that wanted to break off. But they don't get that share. So in their mind, they're like, we give a lot of our money away. This is just businessmen. They're not thinking about the romance of the sport. They don't care about smaller teams having a chance. Like, you got to keep, everybody needs to understand that when this whole thing happened, all these people cared about were like, we're giving away our money. Like, our investments aren't working hard enough for us, because that's what they are. They're businessmen. They aren't sports people. And that's the big issue. They aren't, like, that was the biggest problem with this whole thing. And the biggest problem with kind of how ownership works in the UK. Like, across other sport, especially in like basketball and football, the owners genuinely care about their teams winning. Like, they generally they're like, no, like they came from a family that all inherited, that cared about the sport. So it would be like the Glazers, but their family are football people, so they care about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers doing well. Like, they actually have a connection to that team. Then there's like singular owners like Mark Cuban, who's like the Roman Abramovich in the NBA, where that guy literally just like, it's the Steve Cliffords and these guys who just spent so much money to buy their teams, and they care about how their team does. So they invest that way, they buy that way. The problem in the UK is you don't have that. You have investors. That's the problem. You don't have owners, in my opinion. You have investors.
Do you know what it's like? Like in the UK, there's a lot of like Gordon Ramsay restaurants, and every time someone goes in, they go, "Oh my God, I'm going to see Gordon Ramsay," and it's like, no, he has probably no bearing on what goes on in this restaurant. He doesn't care. He probably doesn't think about it at all. It's just his name on it. He put an initial investment in it and just left it alone. And that's how the Glazers view the football team. They went, well, we own it, but we've got nothing to do with it. You know, it's like the same way you'll never see Gordon Ramsay at one of his restaurants is you'll never see the Glazers at Manchester United, because they just, like you said, they see it as like the same way he would see a restaurant. They go, right, I've got this restaurant, but I'm not going to do anything. Like, you know, I'm not going to go to it. And that's the problem. And I don't know how you fix that now, because I mean, this is very kind of deep political point that can go on for hours, this, but you know, I really hope the Glazers go. They're terrible, but
it's tough.
I wouldn't be comfortable with us getting bought by some Saudi Arabian billionaires who have violated human rights in a lot of countries. You know,
and that's the thing. When you have a team that's an investment and an asset that's this big, well, that is Manchester United, there's only a few people in the world that can really purchase it. And like those people, any kid talking about my boys McTominay and Fred, yeah, we glazed over them.
Yeah, McTominay is great, isn't he?
Yes.
Isn't Fred good as well? There we go.
Both of those dudes should be not in the starting 11 next year. Yeah, man, but it is like the Glazers things that it's a big problem. Like who can buy the team and not be considered somewhat evil in some way, shape, or form with that type of money? Like it's very crazy unless you go to a state-owned model where like the public owns the team, which is what people are pushing for. It's just going to be very hard to get these people out. Anyway, that was a good conversation. With that being said, score predictions. What do you think is going to happen tomorrow? Yeah, we're still doing a preview for Liverpool.
Yeah, we ended up talking about Starbucks capitalism, the Euros, Super League.
Yeah, that's why it's a podcast, man. You know.
Yeah, we've got to
You never know
deviate.
what you're gonna get.
It's going to be 0-0. I'm sorry. I am sorry.
I love the lead up, the lead in. It's
Yeah.
gonna be 0-0.
The more I think about this, the more it's going to be 0-0. Realistically,
I'm starting Robertson and Shaw. So if that happens, not the worst.
2 clean sheets in it, but I just can't. It feels like Liverpool's always 0-0, and I don't think they'll beat it.
There's that 1-1 that was criminal where Adam Lallana scored in like the 85th minute.
Oh, that game, that was so painful. Right at the end.
I was like, how did we just let that happen?
I know.
Of all people too.
5 minutes to go. And the Liverpool fans were so quiet all game. Then they just start piping up after he scored. Hope no. I've changed my prediction. We're going to win 7-0. I just hope we absolutely batter them. We've got Ollie in the comments here. Nice of him to take out the time before a game.
That's good. I'm going with 2-1. I think they'll score first, and we'll do what we've been doing. That's just whatever it is with this team. It'd be nice if we scored first. If I'm gonna be honest, it would be, and I wouldn't be upset about it. But it's just whatever it is with this team is we like to be under pressure. Like nobody can question our mentality when it comes to being even remotely down in a game. I'm not as worried anymore. I used to be like, if another team scored, I was like, shit. Now I'm like, I mean, there's time and is Greenwood on the bench? Okay, cool. We're okay. Like that's how I look at it. Greenwood has become such a threat coming off that bench where it's like when you start with either Cavani or Rashford and Greenwood's not in the starting lineup, you're like, well, there's a potential goal sitting there. So as long as one of the guys on the pitch gets one. So I think 2-1's where I'm going to go with the game. I hope it's as good as the FA Cup game because that game was
good.
Wicked.
That was how it should be.
That was so fun to watch. I was like, okay, cool. Like this is it. Like both these teams give a shit right now. So that's what I'm hoping for. If we have not. Yeah, for City's going to win the title. Anyway.
Oh yeah, I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah, if we lose tomorrow, City wins the title. It's like yeah. So it's there's a lot of bad things that could happen tomorrow, not a lot of good.
Wait, so you're telling me simultaneously we could lose at home to Liverpool and City win the league at the same time?
Yeah, and give Liverpool a chance to get to the top four, all of the same. Yeah, tomorrow is like it's not a must win, but it's a must win for emotions.
Yeah. Like for we were saying earlier how it was a bit meaningless, but I've changed my mind. We've got to win this. Like, if City win the league off us losing to Liverpool
at Old Trafford,
that's like nightmare.
Yeah, that's. I'm really curious who this is, but he's killing me. He's killing me. There's always a chance I'll get Fernandes penalty.
Oh, God.
Yeah. Van de Beek will be lucky to get 2 minutes like in this game.
That guy is literally what most of my mentions are like on Twitter. Just people kind of, being a bit unkind towards Ollie. But, like I say, nice of Ollie just before the game to get involved in the podcast. And
yeah, appreciate that. Appreciate Ollie stopping in and getting involved and being part of the podcast. Always good to have Ollie Gunnar Solskjaer watching. That being said, again, if you're new to the channel, like, subscribe. We're always doing previews. Yes, if you've watched our previews, half the time we talk a lot of shit, but it is what it is. We're at that point in the season where all that matters is Europa League and the rest is just football, and it's fun to talk about. And there's a lot of things going on. Wait till transfer season. That's going to be fun too. Cool, man. With that being said, I'm going to leave it there. It's been a longer one than most, so we will also Sancho news breaking on Twitter. What? I hope you're not lying to me to get me to keep the podcast going longer.
I feel like we're being baited here.
Yeah, we're being baited here, hardcore.
Oh, Fabrizio Romano.
I see it. We already had a gentleman's
agreement with Jadon Sancho since last year that he can leave the club under certain conditions.
Okay, thank you for that, Urwa. I hadn't seen that. I appreciate that.
And they would sell him for less than 100 million.
They have to at this stage. Like last year, they basically Man United needs Jadon Sancho. Jadon Sancho needs Man United. It's that simple. That's a great tweet I just read too. It's so this is the thing. I don't think he'll wear. I don't think he'll wear his 7 though. I think he'll have to wait. If I'm going to be honest, I don't think United would ever in a million years take away a number from a veteran like Cavani to give to a new kid. But Sancho will just get it as soon as he leaves. Wow, that's big news. Like that's legit. That's like we haven't had. Zorc hasn't come out and said that publicly yet. Like he hasn't. Okay. Are you sure you're not like? I just feel like Alexi's got like a burner phone beside him. Yo, that's big news. That's
Yeah,
I'm excited about that.
That feels significant because now there's basically no excuse for us not to buy him. Because
this is the biggest balls in your court I've ever seen. Like, it's like over to you, United.
If we're talking, because 100 million euros is what's that into pounds?
£80, I think, 80 million pounds, roughly.
So 80 million when we were getting quoted 120 last year.
Mm-hmm. Let's figure out. I can just look that up right now. If we go 100 million euros to the British pound, 86 million. So 87, yeah. That's a no-brainer for me. Like that's a no-brainer. That's an easy one. And then Pau Torres has a release clause of 45 million euros. Just trigger it. Like literally Villarreal said, we have no interest in negotiating. He has a release clause. Like if you trigger it, you trigger it. So cool. Spend your big money on Sancho, Villarreal, and then we all know that there's going to be a conversation with Declan Rice and Jesse Lingard. There's no way that conversation isn't happening where David Moyes is looking at his team being like, I'm really getting frustrated with David Moyes though. And these Declan Rice is worth over 100 million. Like, shut up.
Oh, I was going to say, if you're only just getting frustrated with Moyes now, I mean, yeah.
No, stop it. Declan Rice is not worth 100 million. He's going to be worth 50 million in Jesse Lingard and we're good. Cool. You can say that was an $80 million deal. We don't care. Like, that's what it's going to be. So if we can get those 3 deals done this summer, then Ollie has absolutely no excuse not to challenge next year. I will be the first one to say it. Ollie, you need to win a title. Or at least, even if you don't win the title, if you finish like within 2 points or something, and I'm like, okay, cool. Like
if we sign Torres, Rice, and Sancho, we are winning the league, the Champions League, the FA Cup, the League Cup, the Super Cup, the X Factor,
the ICC,
American Talent, Big Brother, the 2022 US presidential election.
Oh shit! This guy said Big Brother.
Yeah, we're just winning. Like we're literally winning. You know, when they have the elections for Congress as well, we're winning that. We would win absolutely everything that's ever existed. The Masked Singer, another one we'd win. We're taking over, you know.
But think about it. That would be the biggest sign. I don't think there would be a single media outlet out there that wouldn't be like, Manchester United's back, like full back, like all the way back. And then nobody could chat shit to Ollie at the end of the day. If Ollie has that kind of pull and were to bring all those guys in, like at that point, if I'm him, I'm like, I want a contract. And at the end of the day, like I've at least earned money in the bank for an extra contract. If I suck in 2 years, you can fire me, but I've earned that contract because I got you these players that none of those guys would come play for Jose. So like,
yeah.
Okay, that was cool news. So and that kind of kept us on for a bit. That's good news. That's something to keep an eye on now. Yeah, that's something to keep an eye on. I also just saw Liverpool's in talks with Depay's agents.
Well,
that would be beautiful too, because that just means he's not going there.
If Liverpool get Memphis and we get Sancho, I mean, that's a sign of where the two clubs are going, isn't it?
It is. It very much is. And if
you
you
know,
think
it's only up, really. I mean, God, we really should be signing him. If it's 80 million, there's no excuses now. We should be on the phone to them right now. I mean, Ollie's obviously in our comment section, but when he's finished watching our video, Ollie should be on the phone to.
Oh, he said they wanted Dan James in the deal, so it got shut down immediately. So apparently we should give up our hopes on Sancho there. But no, we should literally be on the phone with them right now, just working out a deal that can be announced as soon as possible. Like as soon as it can be announced, it should be announced. Like it should just be like done deal, because you announce that deal and then you look at Paul Pogba and you go, you still want to leave? You sure? Like, are you sure? Like, do you see what's happening here? Like, do you still want to go? Because we are going to be the best team in Europe in a few years if you stick around. Like, that's the one thing. Everything relies on Paul Pogba resigning, in my opinion. I don't see a world where we'll be good enough without Paul Pogba. So it's kind of like that's the key. Paul Pogba stays, Manchester United are probably back. And that'll be one of the biggest pieces to tell you that we're back, is if Paul Pogba actually does remain at Manchester United. Cool. All right. Well, with that now, I think we're good. We'll pick it up and hopefully some of this news goes on and we can keep track of it. Everybody who's been watching, like, subscribe. We'll be back next week. Peace. And wait for the awkward stream.